Ochelli Effect is sponsored by WallStreetWindow.com and listeners like you.
And now, the most underrated voice in all media, Chuck Ochelli.
25th day of April 2024, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar. And this is the Ochelli Effect. You probably listening to us via podcast, but we are live on a Thursday here just after 8 p.m., a few minutes late, about 5 minutes late going to air. 8 p.m. Eastern Time on that 25th day of April 2024 on Ochelli.com and the streams and all that good stuff. Anyway, here we go. What is on our minds tonight? Well, it could be a lot about news. I wanted to do news shows lately, but I got to be honest with you. It's depressing, a lot of it. Okay. It's a lot of the same. It's become homogenized. And I'm wondering if that has something to do with the delivery system as opposed to the content. Is it the content or is it the delivery system? Does one have influence over the other? There's a lot to be said there. Mike Swanson is with me, wallstreetwindow.com. Be in the know. Go to wallstreetwindow.com, sponsor of this show. Indeed, he is the author of The War State, the author of Why the Vietnam War, the author of actually a handful of books, but those two I highly recommend. But he's the author of a bunch of books. You can check them out on Amazon, or you could click one of the book links on the website at Ochelli.com, where you see The War State's that red book with Ike on the front cover giving his iconic speech regarding the military-industrial complex, the farewell address, and all that. Anyway, Mike writes about these things, is currently writing another piece about the Vietnam War, because Why the Vietnam War is just the first in a series of what was initially planned as 3 volumes. I don't know if that's still 3 volumes, but I guess we shall see. And we're going to hear from Mike not only about those things in the very near future, but tonight we're going to talk about the delivery of news. Anyway, Mike, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I sent you a bunch of links to various articles about what's going on with news websites in general, and I'm experiencing all this myself, but I've been on the internet for almost 25 years now with websites of various iterations and have seen different trends come and go.
Isn't it closer to 30 years, Mike? Because weren't you on the interwebs, if you will, like in the mid-90s too?
Oh, yeah, bit? Sure.
So
sure.
It's like 30 years now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, you go back to before the internet and people had bulletin boards and were calling in places.
Well, exactly. Okay, the bulletin boards.
I've been doing that, for a long time.
Well, and let's just go over that, right? So we have witnessed as spectators, but also as participants in news delivery and information delivery, right? In various ways. I mean, you're an author. I'm working on a book now, which, by the way, my co-author and I are going back and forth over a draft right now. But I mean, you've actually published stuff in that way. You publish stuff online. Wall Street Window, it's not just about Wall Street. You do a lot of geopolitics, a lot of current culture clashes, things that are going on in the world, etc. And here's the deal. We've watched local news basically collapse. We watched Facebook become people's news feeds because they were just, totally involved in the late night talk shows and the comedy guys out there giving them the news mainly, right?
Well, let me talk about those two topics as a way to
please
talk about what's going on, so people, they may, especially the Facebook thing, because people are use it, But I was supposed to say something about the local news thing. So I've considered, I haven't done it. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I've considered trying to start a local news business with a physical newspaper that would be free and make money from advertisers. In the local news industry, the newspaper subscription business has been collapsing for decades, and everyone knows that.
Right.
But one of the things that's happened, and I was looking at this locally, and I actually looked at the paper where you live because I was curious to see the same things happening. So where I live, there's 2 newspapers, and one is owned by a private company of a family that's from this area, and is like a dozen or so papers, and they have a stable business. They haven't lost subscribers. They have about 10,000, and they have,
So just really quickly, look, there's a couple of different ways to go at this, and there used to be very localized newspapers that could be just for a town or just for a set of towns or a county, and that would be what they would cover mainly, and they might cover some national news, etc., but mainly, if you wanted your real local news, you wanted to find out what was going on with the school district, you wanted to find out the scheduling of your local facilities, all those kinds of things used to be printed in those local papers, right? So nowadays, a lot of people started getting informed on the Facebook pages and stuff like that.
Well, the thing
there
about,
might be a state.
The thing about the local, I want to tell you.
The other thing is there might be a state version or a bigger version, right? Like, so where I am now, in Jersey, I could have easily laid it out for you too, but in Georgia, you might say, okay, I've got this little tiny local paper here, but also there's like the Atlanta State Constitution paper, which is statewide, but then again, at least focuses on Georgia. And there might be a section for my area of Georgia, right? Okay. So there were the two ways to go at it, but these things have all virtually been bought up by bigger conglomerates mostly. Right. And yeah, occasionally there's a larger family owned concern, like you said, or whatever, but most of those seem to have collapsed as well. Now, you still have one in Virginia, but you took a look at what was going on here locally. What did you find?
So the thing is, there's in the county I live in, there's a stable local one I mentioned. The neighboring county has a stable local one too. Okay. However, there's another paper that's been bought up by one of these conglomerates, and the conglomerates, the Lee Enterprises owns the one where I live, and there's a company called McClatchy that owns the one where you live.
Right.
And the Lee Enterprise company, for the past couple of years, all of these companies, and McClatchy included, what they've been doing is downsizing, cutting, the staff.
Well, they've been getting rid of reporters, local offices, cutting costs.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And they turn off the readers because they're getting, they're seeing their newspaper degrade in quality, and then they're losing subscribers that way. Now, what these companies have said, and Lee Enterprises is a public company, so they make these statements on earnings calls and their reports, which I've looked at, and they're losing money, and their market capitalization. I mean, this company owns like 100 newspapers, and it's not worth $100 million. I mean, it's like a penny stock. Right. So it's a troubled company. But what they have been telling people over the past couple of years is that print isn't profitable, or print's dying. People don't want print, and we're going to move everyone to online subscriptions. Mm-hmm. And that's the future. And they have had a drive in doing that. Now,
hold on, because not only have these little papers done that, but even like the big monsters like the New York Times have gone to which I always find funny, pay for independent journalism, the New York Times. That's hilarious, right? Independent journalism. This big conglomerate is out there saying, pay us a couple dollars a month. Otherwise, we're only going to let you read 1, 2, 3 articles a month, right? And they do that to you, even with the big name papers, right? Everybody seemed to go to the online subscription model and pay us a couple dollars a month so you can access the newspaper. Then you say, well, screw it, I'll go buy the print one. There are no print papers, or there's very few, I should say. So we're in a new age where there's a digital one. Nobody's buying that. There's no print papers. So where are people getting their news? And you sent me these articles. Go ahead.
What's happening is that these companies, there's a startling story I saw that said that this isn't the New York Times and Post, but these other companies like Lee Enterprises, McClatchy, and so forth, that they are having a churn. They had a boom in getting people online. in the past couple of years, just because they're moving, there's something new that they're doing. But now they're discovering that the online subscribers are unsubscribing within 8 months.
Right.
It's called churn. Now, I was in an online subscription business myself with a website for 17, 18 years. I mean, that was one of my main businesses.
Right.
And I mean, I obsessively was studying that, going to conferences about it. I know all about the industry, and this is financial publishing. Started in the 70s of publishing newsletters. Then it moved online way before these newspapers did.
Right.
I was going to internet marketing conferences and on and on and on.
So really quickly, for a reference, just for everybody's reference point, is you sent me this article, which was printed in December of 2023 on Local News Initiative. And it says the title of the article is Churning Toward Disaster. And you guys will see that in the show notes, or if you're on Ochelli.com, it's in the chat room already. I've already posted the link there if you want to go ahead and reference the article that describes this. But as you said, independently, you were studying this because you were in this sort of business as well.
I was in the business.
Right.
I had a large for a few years before I met you. It was large. It was sizable. I had an email list of 100,000 people on it.
Right.
I mean, in 2006 to 2010 or so.
And even that email list, quite frankly, because look, every time people wanted to negotiate with me about, purchasing pieces of what I'm doing, your email list is a commodity. If you have a gigantic email list, you could literally just sell that.
Up to say I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I can tell you that an 8-month churn is awful. I mean, awful.
Right.
And internet marketing, which is like BizOp and sleazy, they would trick people into subscribing to something, and their churn was in 90 days. And that's what I'm saying. The lowest quality customer, lowest quality product, you have a 90-day churn. And the standard in the financial publishing industry when I was in it was about 12 months. So 9 months is just awful. So when I read that, I was like, well, how can it be so bad? On one hand, what that tells me is that those newspapers, including, and I looked at these newspapers with a 9-month churn, that had a sudden surge in like 2 years within the past couple of years, within, I would say 2, 3, 4 years from now, they're going to be almost doomed at that rate, because it's a different business than, say, financial publishing. It's a worldwide, national-wide thing. So if you lose someone, there's someone else. If I lose someone in Montana, well, there's someone interested in Detroit. With this local news thing, if they lose, they have a limited pool of new customers. They don't really have a pool of new customers.
Okay, what you're saying is that when you have a concern, well, let
me tell you why it's happening.
Go ahead.
So I went and looked at those 2 local papers that are stable and compared them to what these other papers are doing. And it's so obvious to me from what I know what I know from this business.
Sure. So what is the comparison?
Stable.
What is the difference?
Are charging 60.
How does it get to stable? Go ahead.
Huh?
Oh, how is it that you get to stable?
They're not losing people.
Yeah. How? How is that happening? Huh? How is that happening as compared to these other ones that are losing people? Yeah.
The ones that are stable, in the 2 in my area,
right,
they're charging an annual fee of like one's $67 and one's like $35. Okay. And then the Lee Enterprise papers are all charging $15 a month.
Right.
And I went and looked at the McClatchy one where you live, and it's the same sort of $15.99 or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're charging, multiply that by 12. They're charging,
It's like $150 a year.
Yeah, they're charging about $150 a year with these little monthly charges. And I know, from when I was studying all this stuff, you don't want to charge someone, if you can help it, every single month. You're better off to charge them once a year, if you have to, a quarterly. And then if you are going to charge them monthly, you want to have an option that entices them to pay annually. So you may say $15.99 a month and then offer $75 a year. And most people will take the 75 or at least half. And then you're kind of pushing people actually to spend, you're going to create a more stable business. So these people don't know that kind of information. They don't know what they're doing. And it's just crazy. So, I was reading about this last year, and this is one of what I believe is that Lee Enterprises paper where I live, because they report earnings, I can see that they've lost a huge number of people in 12 months.
Right.
And at that rate, they're going to be gone, or they're going to be a ghost paper. So I was thinking, well, if they're gone, then it's kind of an opportunity to start something of my own, but I don't know if I got the energy to do it or try to fight that battle. But I just wanted to tell you, this is the local news thing, and I can see another collapse coming because these kind of companies own so many newspapers in the next couple of years. Now, Facebook,
right,
is more symptomatic of all the other news stories I sent you, and it's directly affecting me and you and other other content creators because of why it's happening.
Right.
So,
well, look, it's a different circumstance because for a while there, people were blaming Facebook and like the social media outlets because now you could get your headlines through them. And you didn't have to subscribe. But if all you wanted was the headlines, you could search online and get them yourself. There's a reason why Google is a profitable company still and continues to be profitable, right? Which I always find bizarre that something that started as a search engine effectively is this huge company now, right? The Alphabet's doing pretty well, right?
Financially, sure.
Yeah, financially it's doing well, but it also dominates, whether people know it or not, it dominates a lot of the flow of information.
Oh, yeah, completely, yeah.
So in a way, here's the thing. It ends up being profitable and not everything. Okay. And when you're looking at monthly subscriptions for a newspaper, think about this just in your own heads, right? If you're going to pay for whatever, name your local paper, right? You're going to pay almost the same amount to get Netflix as you do your local paper every month. Something's off there. You get a lot more out of Netflix, you know what I mean, than you do out of the local paper that way. When meanwhile, two things. One, there's either a free news app, right, that does alert you to stories in your area, or you don't need the news app necessarily at that kind of price. Anyway, like you said, a lot better if you just pay a singular fee once a year. At least you'll have steady customers. You'll have steady traffic.
The news app, like the Newsbreak is one, and we've talked about it before.
Right.
It's kind of a huge threat to these companies. I'm sure it's hurting them.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of the content that these publishers publish and are charging people for are simply press releases that they're copy and pasting.
Yeah.
And those press releases are available for free on the news apps. And then there's people that are, getting paid a small amount of money per article, like say $5 when they, anyone can write on there, and they're creating news too, and they can copy and paste the press release or reword it and write all kinds of stuff. And there's, I'm sure, people, in India or wherever writing articles about where you live.
Yeah, exactly, because it doesn't matter. I could pick up and say, okay, I'm going to write for the Michigan Concern, and I could just write all about it. I've never even been there. I don't even know where the streets are, nothing. But anyway, it's gotten to a weird business where there's a disconnect. Plus, there are the people that only really want the headlines anyway, which are already shared on whatever the hell app they're on or whatever the hell social media thing they're on anyway, right? And then you got guys like me who are, podcasters. And podcasters, there's local podcasts, by the way, where it's like it's just about your area and stuff like that, right? And, we're giving most of those away for free. So, I mean, there's tons of free content out there that if somebody really is interested, they don't got to pay the local paper $12 a month or whatever, right? They can get it elsewhere. But social media is weird, too, because now that's peeling back. I mean, yes, Facebook has fallen out of favor anyway. Elon Musk, in my mind, has destroyed Twitter, even though Twitter is now becoming something else because now there's radio shows on Twitter. There's, different programs on there. Like it's almost like it's a TV video platform, everything now. Twitter is, right? Communication of all sorts. Only thing he doesn't have is his own version of PayPal on there, I think, yet. But I don't know what Grok is. Do you know what Grok is? I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
It's some new thing on there. And ever since Musk took it over and started monetizing the blue check marks and stuff, sure, he's still got a financial model in his hands, and it is massive, but seems like people are not really getting their information from there either, according to these things. I'll tell you what else is weird, is something that survived for the longest time is the Drudge Report, which he never updated his website. Like, it looked the same from 1996 or whatever till 2 years ago when I was looking at it. It still looked the same. The Drudge Report.
Oh, sure. And I still go to it.
Yeah, but now from 2020 to 2024, this weird shift happened. Do you think it had anything to do, by the way, with the change in society because of the lockdown and now, people doing things more remotely and the rise of the food delivery and all that kind of stuff? Do you think that that had anything to do with it? Because during that time period, all of these social media sites where people were seemingly turning for all of their news and information lost tons of traffic. I don't know where that traffic went. Do you?
Well, so I Google and Facebook and Twitter. Forget about Twitter. It's got its own problems, but they're simply sending less traffic to news websites, period. Mm-hmm. So Facebook, for example, after the Trump election, there's this whole mania for about 2 or 3 years about fake news and all these stories about all these websites that sprout up that found a way that they could get all this traffic from Facebook, by writing articles that got people's attention, and there are people making a living doing that. And there's a huge backlash. The Democrats in Washington really, and Facebook reacted to that by kicking a lot of these websites off and so forth. But they also, about a year and a half ago, basically said, we're just going to start downgrading news in general in the Facebook feed. And then really starting a year ago, they accelerated that process to now they're hardly sending any traffic at all to news websites. And if you have a Facebook account, if you load it up, I mean, this is at least what I'm seeing. And I should be seeing news sites and news stories because I read them. I'm a consumer of news, but I don't see that in my Facebook feed at all. And what they said they were going to do, and I believe it's what they're doing because it seems to be what I'm seeing, is engineer the Facebook feed so that it's more algorithmic driven to show you content that's sort of like the way TikTok works. It may not be things, not people you're following or pages that you're following, but stuff that they think you'll react to or will keep you on the site as long as possible, returning as much as possible. So it's become really algorithmic driven. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's people that are just creating content for that algorithm. Now, what I have noticed, and I've heard others comment on that, say the same thing. Yeah. So I don't think it's just happening to me. I'll ask you when I say this, but what I notice, and I'm looking at loading it up now, is I'm seeing less content on Facebook from people that are my your friends list, mm-hmm. or that are pages that I even follow. Right. Like, for instance, I'm scrolling down. The first thing is something about Star Trek from a page I don't believe I follow. Some strange page, another Star Trek thing, then something called another page I don't follow, heavy and classic rock. Now here's a local advertisement. Mm-hmm. Finally, a picture from someone that's in my Facebook friend. And now I'm going through again. Another. These are pages I'm not following.
Right. No, I get a lot of that. It's just
none of these people, and it's all the stuff I'm seeing. None of it's about news. It's all cultural stuff, like movies.
Yeah, it's like my Amazon. It's like my Amazon feed used to be. Okay, since you like this, then you'll probably like this. And that's pretty much what they're doing on there. I would guarantee you, if I open up Facebook, I'm going to get some Star Trek. I'll probably get some other stuff about TV shows that are similar to TV shows that I watch or whatever, but not necessarily from the pages I follow or the people I follow. And in fact, unless somebody sends me a direct message, my attention is not being pulled to say like it used to be. Or even JP Satilli, who puts out these long...
I don't see JP's stuff, and I'm sure he's posting every day. I'm seeing something right now. I don't follow this. I mean, literally, it's a picture of a steak, mm-hmm. and the page is called Homemade Cooking. And so...
Now, were you looking up groceries or cooking or anything on Amazon or on Google
I don't
recently?
Think so.
Well, because that's what I'm discovering is that it's more about your connectivity to like your search engines and the stuff you're interested in.
That makes sense.
Like that, like food. If you're interested in food for one day, they turn around and they start feeding you stuff about food. If you're looking for a TV show or you look up something, to try and find out when they're going to put out, something new or whatever, you'll get that. Even if you look it up off of that site, it comes back around into the algorithm. But like you said, it's mostly cultural stuff, and it's not the local stuff anymore. There was a time, too, that Facebook was very localized, right, where they would show you, okay, you're interested in food, here's a local restaurant.
Well, I suspect, and I heard someone else say this, they're theorizing that what's probably happening is that real people are not posting as much on there as they used to at all. And so Facebook is filling the gap with all this other stuff. But it's probably actually discouraged, because, it's probably even driving fewer people to comment, but they look at it. I'm sure it works at keeping people looking at the stuff or entertained.
But only for the big corporate stuff. Because look, as an independent producer of content, right? Yeah. Every time I release a podcast, a post goes on Facebook automatically from one of my sites. And then, then other things feed onto Facebook and tell people I put out a new podcast, I'm doing a live show, whatever. Nobody sees it, it looks like to me. It goes out there and people used to engage with it, and I used to see traffic come to the website from Facebook. No more. It's gone. Facebook traffic is gone.
I mean, I can see I have a Facebook page for Wall Street Window. 11,000 followers.
Right.
11,000 likes, okay?
Now, every time you post a new article on Wall Street Window, doesn't it post to Facebook automatically for you?
No, I don't have it.
You don't have that set up? Okay, sorry. But go ahead.
It's okay. But I posted one today. 11,000 followers.
Right.
122 people saw it.
Yeah, that's insane. How is it you have 11,000 people say, I'm interested in this, I want to follow this, and you've only got 100 engaged? I mean, even phone callers do better than that when you've got a radio station. I mean, and they tell you, 1 out of 100 calls there, basically, right? So that's crazy, though. 100 people out of 11,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. See, there's something odd there where your stuff is not being put under people's noses. So even if they're following your page, even if they're a fan of your page, because you're not the larger corporate entity, you're not getting put into those feeds. So when you go onto the feed or the news story, because you notice how they have the thing where it's like you can put this on your regular feed or your news feed or whatever, I think nobody else is seeing it when you put it on the news feed, because even though, theoretically that should pop up for people that are your friends, for people that follow you, because some people that are, not your friends do follow you on Facebook, right? They should see that. It should just come up in their feed somewhere. But if it does, it must come up way down in their feed, because I don't think anybody's seeing these anymore on Facebook. I mean, it's almost... I
don't see anything you're posting.
Yeah, you see nothing I'm posting, right?
Nothing.
And like I said, at least a few times a week, right, a radio show posts. On top of that, I do go there, say something else. I put out another thing, hey, donate to the network, whatever. And I'm starting to feel like I shouldn't bother, because I don't think anybody's seeing it, really, unless they very purposely go to my little radio show group. On purpose, go and visit that. And
Right.
Here's the thing. When they land on the Facebook site, they're encouraged to go to these other places, like you said, Star Trek or whatever. If you start clicking on that, you'll probably go through a maze. And you'll be, okay, what's the new show? Hey, there's some news regarding this. There's a new DVD release, whatever. And an hour later, you've been on Star Trek now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll never even bother to go look at another interest or see what your friends are doing. Unless you decide to message me directly, you're probably not going to hear from me. And you and I, we follow each other. If you say something on there and I see it, I read it. It used to be anyway. I'd comment on it. You and I used to both comment on JP Satilli stuff because it was really brilliant, like little mini articles, right? But when was the last time JP popped up on your page?
I don't. It's been a long time. Let me see.
Time.
Yeah, he posted something 6 hours ago. Two posts, 3 posts today.
Okay, but
4.
Did it come up in your...
4 posts he did today. I didn't see a single one of them.
It didn't come up in your feed?
No.
See? And this is a guy that you and I would definitely like to read. We like to follow. We like to hear what he has to say, right? I mean, I'm not just kissing up to JP here, but I'm just saying he's a guy that we would look at, right? I mean, let's see what his new article is. Outside of him, I mean, you and I both read the rundown, right?
Yeah.
When he publishes a new article, a lot of times, if it's even remotely interesting topic-wise, you and I go read it on a lot of different websites when we know it's happening. But are we getting informed that he's publishing an article? I don't think so anymore. Because unless I see it in my email, I don't know he's publishing anymore. I mean, do you?
Well, I get the emails.
No, you get the emails, but you don't see it on your Facebook. Well, you're not using Twitter anymore, right? You're not even using Twitter anymore, right?
No.
So, but you still go to Facebook. I know you do that. And
Yeah, I do it once or twice a day. Yeah.
How is that going for your local stuff? Because for a while there, you were following like the local councils and stuff on there. Is any of that in your feed?
Well, that's an example of all this too. So I still do that, but I don't see it. Doesn't appear in my feed. I have to go to these pages,
right,
and look for myself.
But that's what I was saying about my radio show. Unless you're going to the the Coalition of Effectors group on Facebook, you're not seeing my radio shows getting published. You're not seeing. I mean, I got people literally every once in a while sending me a message going, "Do you still do a show?" And meanwhile, they're following me. They're in the group. They follow the page I have, and they don't know that I'm still doing a show. I mean, it's bizarre. So anyway, if you're an independent content creator, that's where you're at. But again, if you're a larger corporate entity, I'm sure, McDonald's is still getting their ads done, and Grubhub is getting advertising on there. And I'm sure, like you said, the big companies. I mean, do you have an ad for what do you call it, Paramount Plus? I mean, yeah, you're probably getting all that stuff still, but are you getting any of the independent content people? Probably not, right?
Well, I'm saying it's not just the independent content people, but the national news outlets too aren't getting exposure anymore.
Yeah, but ultimately that's what I'm getting to. Look, you don't have the independent content creators. No, you don't have the local news coming up. It's not being fed to you at all, is it? Okay, what about the big stories? So are you seeing stuff about the conflict in the Middle East? Are you seeing stuff about politics? I mean, because I know you follow politics a bit. Are you seeing stuff about that in your feed?
Nope.
No. So what is there? You know what I mean?
I'm going through it now, and I see a picture of. I mean, this is the kind of crap I'm seeing. I mean, I don't know why this is even. I don't. It's bags of water in a refrigerator.
Okay.
And it says, it's it's one of these themes, I guess, and it says, "Tired of boiling water every time you make pasta? Boil a few gallons at the beginning of the week and freeze it for later."
What is this?
I mean, that's what it says.
I haven't seen that one, Mike. I don't know what's on your feed with the boiling water and all, but okay.
I mean, why is that even on there?
I don't know. I
don't even know. I guess it's a joke.
I don't know. How are you going to use your boiled water if it's bagged and frozen? What, you got to reboil it again, don't you? I mean, okay. This is where we're at. Boiling bags of frozen bags of boiled water. Okay. Sure, why not? But Mike, what does this mean for the delivery of news then, right? I mean, forget about the quality of the content once again. As I said, I mean, we could sit and talk about that all day. What is actually in the news? The news headlines, it's pretty depressing. What are they doing? They're jamming us with 2024. They're jamming us with the Trump trial. They're in the broadcast mediums. Which, by the way, did you take note that a guy set himself on fire outside of the Trump trial? Did you see that last week?
So I didn't see it. I saw the headline, and then someone sent me his manifesto. Did you see that?
Yeah, of course. I'm on his Substack, so because he has a Substack. See, that's the other question I have.
Okay. I read the manifesto.
Yeah. No, I read that too. But okay, what I was wondering though is, did you see that fed to you during that time? Because broadcast news didn't really cover it.
I just saw. I saw the headline somewhere. I don't remember where. I don't really. I don't watch the television.
No, but you see my point.
I don't know.
But you see my point is that something like that happened. You figure that would have been shoved right under your nose on these feeds, and it was not. The guy died, and we talked about it on the Friday call.
I didn't know he died.
Yeah, he passed away on Saturday, I think. But we talked about it on the Friday show because I read the manifesto and really couldn't figure out what his point was. I mean, I get his points. I understand. And frankly, most of it is stuff that I say. Both parties are bull crap and everything else. But nobody can explain to me adequately why it is he decided to do this outside of Trump's trial. What was the actual point he was making? I mean, I couldn't figure that out at all.
I mean, I'm not saying I agree with this, but I don't believe this is happening, but I've got my own problems of crypto and Bitcoin. Yeah. But he was claiming basically that crypto market is a conspiracy. What do you call a Ponzi scheme? Is the phrase he used, created by Peter Thiel and a few other people to create a fascist order once they pump and dump it.
Oh no, I get that. And I also get that he's saying that, both sides of the the political fence are on the same team. I get that he was saying that. If you read the whole manifesto, he talks about, that here is the worldwide conspiracy that's going on. There's the financial grip that they have on us, all of us, et cetera, et cetera. And I got all that. But what I didn't get is truly, like, what was the point he was making with this display?
I think, for him to kill himself and not have a clear point that you can easily see what it is, and forcing us to guess, I think it's a sign he was mentally ill.
Well, maybe, but
I told someone, when you study these topics in general, if you try to figure out, like, there's some things I agreed with what he was saying.
Yep, me too. Mm-hmm.
And some things I thought he was wrong.
Yeah, sure.
But he certainly thought he was correct in everything he was saying.
Right.
And if you try to take these deep politics, I'll call it that, topics, and think you can figure it all out, exactly who the players are and exactly what they're doing, you're going to go crazy.
You're almost guaranteed some mental illness.
You're guaranteed to go crazy. And we can think, or maybe some people have done that. And I mean, we could think of examples. Maybe what's his name? Michael Rupert maybe did that. Or that Danny Carcelero, was his name?
Casolaro?
Casolaro. Maybe that happened to him. Mm-hmm. I mean, you probably think of people that maybe there's people in the Kennedy case.
Well, we've seen and known exactly. We've seen and known people that if they get deeply enough into the weeds on these things long enough, it's almost a guarantee that something happens to them emotionally or mentally, because it breaks you down after a while. It just does.
Now, I'd suggest that a metaphor for it is they're trying to figure out who all the people on the inside are and what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing about that. Let's talk about the people on the inside. Mm-hmm. And if they do that, first of all, they know not to do that. If you're, say, in the mafia or some organized crime group, you're not supposed to run around and ask what is going on all the time with this person, that person. You're not supposed to ask,
no kidding,
every little detail. You're supposed to know you're not supposed to do it and not want to know everything. And that's really the people on the inside, I would suggest, know that's how they're supposed to do to handle the world that they're in. And those on the inside who try to figure it all out also go insane. And that's probably what happened, for example, to James Angleton as one famous example.
When he started, imagining conspiracies everywhere and this kind of stuff, eventually you become delusional. So you're figuring that this guy just became delusional and somehow it made sense in his head to go light himself on fire, even though on the outside he couldn't even fully explain what the hell that was.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, fair enough. But what I'm saying is that wasn't even something that came up in people's feeds. You'd figure a couple of years ago that would have been the viral story, wouldn't it? That would have been everywhere. And indeed, it was like, not that big a deal now. This has very much changed, is all I'm saying. Is that
what did y'all make of that when y'all were talking Friday? I haven't thought about that.
Well, that was it. I didn't know what to make of it, except that it was very strange to me that it wasn't the biggest headline, that nobody made the effort to figure out why the hell it happened. It was just sort of like, well, this kind of happened. Anyway, moving on. It's very, very weird. Yeah.
Actually, I did try to read a mainstream story about it after I read the manifesto.
Right.
And it just labeled him as a conspiracy nut.
Right.
Didn't even bother to tell you what he wrote at all.
Yeah, right. Nothing. Exactly. He's just a conspiracy theorist. See, but that's the thing, is these very homogenized, kind of like what you get out of Wikipedia now is about the level of information you get out of the world. Wikipedia. And it may be right, it may not be right, it might be off a little bit. The only thing Wikipedia is good for is they pretty quickly adjust when somebody dies. They pretty quickly put their date of death on their entry at Wikipedia. That's about it. Other than that, it's a mess. Yeah. And that's the information stream that's out there now. People search it themselves with phrases and half-baked phrases usually, and they just use Google to go get their information. So nobody wants a local paper anymore. Nobody's using Facebook anymore. People are just griping about their opinions on any social media platform, whatever it is, whether it's to own the libs or to make their big point or to try and, be an influencer somewhere. That's all they do. And that's it. It's about your opinion and your world, and you don't have to be connected or informed about it anymore. And it seems to be the general sort of persuasion. And yet there are people like you and me who are going, I'd like to be informed and know what's happening in the world. But where are we to turn at this point? Right? You can pay a lot of subscriptions, and maybe they'll let you access more than 3 articles a month or an article a month. Like I said, New York Times even does this now, where it's like, oh no, you've already seen an article this month. Come back, later, or subscribe. Pay us a couple dollars a month. It's amazing to me that even with their advertising revenue, they're still going after the subscription model. Anyway, it's a very weird time in the information stream is all I'm saying. So with the oversaturation and then with the twisting of information via the algorithms, I mean, how are people going to become informed about things when they want it? Think about this selection process that's coming up. And, Trump's court cases, blah, 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 blah. But outside of that, are people going to be informed about, where are people going to do that now? Remember the old days where you might read about what is the candidate's position, what's going on there. Unless you're going to go to the candidates' websites and read their platforms for yourself and hope there's a platform on there, where are you going to learn about that? Even if you wanted to make an educated decision about who to vote for, who to support, who's on your side and who's not, Mike. I mean, is any of this going to be helpful or healthy going forward? What do you think?
It doesn't seem like it's going to get much better, does it?
No, it seems like it's degrading and getting worse by the minute. Yeah. So, Mike, I know you got to get going pretty soon, and I'll let you go, that's for sure. But before you do, how do you want to tie a bow on this? I mean, the information stream is changing. Social media had its effect, but seems to be, doing something else nowadays. The broadcast news is not informing people. Local news is not informing people. Print media is dead. Where are we at here? What are we going to do to be informed going forward outside of going to wallstreetwindow.com and being informed over there? But I mean, where are we going to be informed about anything we care about? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think people are going to have to subscribe to things like J.P. Satili's News Vandal, or they're going to have to subscribe to sources that they trust to sift through some of the mess, or spend an hour a day, looking at various news websites themselves, which, or both or something.
Yeah, but the majority of people, I think, are going to sit there and just take whatever their phone gives them, Well,
that's true.
And that's going to be that. And I guess they want it all delivered. Right. They want it all delivered on demand. So, make sure you subscribe to the right stuff, I guess, huh?
Well, unfortunately, that's what people are going to do. And they're going to go and look for sources that just tell them stories that they want to believe in.
Right.
Whether they're true or not, because they just...
Well, ultimately, that's the greatest problem, is that nobody is looking to be informed. All they're looking for is verification of their preconception. They want the echo chamber. They want somebody to tell them the opinion they already have, to feed it back to them once again, which is how some of these places have stayed in business now for the past 10 years, I think, is just by telling people what they want to hear over and over again. It doesn't matter if it's really happening or if it's actual news. It doesn't matter if you're being informed about what's going on in the world around you objectively. They're just going to feed back to you the things that you want to hear. And that's it. That's the business model. You want to be successful, find a group of people that have a shared opinion and feed them that opinion back to them. I mean, Doesn't that seem to be the way of the future, or am I wrong?
That's what we're witnessing. But it's also what the algorithms are doing,
Yeah.
And rewarding. And what's bizarre is we may be at a point, like I just use Facebook as this Facebook feed as an example, where the people are creating using, let's say, AI tools or something to create content for the algorithms, and then other people are creating doing the same thing in reaction to that content. So it's now becoming a cycle of strangeness, or it's going to get worse and worse.
It's just the recording of the echo, and then the recording of the echo, and that's all there is to it. And again, it all starts with your opinion and the preconceived notion that you want fed to you in the first place. And the algorithm is waiting to serve you. And that's all there is to it. Anyways, Mike Swanson, wallstreetwindow.com. Do buy his books and do go to his website because, we're not getting served by the algorithms here. I don't know. I mean, your books still pop up. If I go to Amazon and look up another book, your books still pop up and tell me that I'd be interested in your book, even though I've told Amazon already I have your books. But they at least try and sell me your books. But anyway, it is a thing. And we'll be talking about the Lancer Conference coming up this year, too, because I hear tell that Mike might go and might present there, maybe. I'm going to be there. I'll be the MC and all that. But anyway, we'll get into that in future shows. And next week, I'm going to be talking to Carmine Savastano about an article he's written recently. So, Mike, I thank you for doing this with me once again. And we'll probably get back to it in about 2 weeks, okay?
Sounds good. You have a good one.
Excellent. WallStreetWindow.com. Be in the know. Go to WallStreetWindow.com. Why the Vietnam War and also The War State. Books by Mike Swanson. Yes, I recommend all that. Check it out on Ochelli.com. Check it out on WallStreetWindow.com.
Revelation through conversation.
WallStreetWindow.com. Gold, silver, the stock market. WallStreetWindow.com.
Perhaps you're invested deeply.
Perhaps you're not in deep enough. Maybe you're thinking about getting started. WallStreetWindow.com. Michael Swanson, the brilliant author of The War State, understood these trends professionally for many years, and now he gives you the benefit of his knowledge. WallStreetWindow.com. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now.
The views expressed by callers, co-hosts, or anyone else who happens to get on the air at Ochelli.com do not necessarily reflect the views of Ochelli.com or Chuck Ochelli, and we are not responsible for any stupidity which might ensue. Thank you.
This is James Corbett of CorbettReport.com, and you're listening to the Ochelli Effect at Ochelli.com.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I'm interested in the truth about the JFK assassination.
Right. Well, what do you want to know?
Judy Baker's wild claim, Oswald girlfriend, she knew Ruby and Barry, cancer weapons. Really?
I imagine I could claim I have 4 wheels. It doesn't make me a wagon, but okay.
Oswald was on the kill team and trying to prevent the murder of John Kennedy. Come on now. Has a real expert on the JFK assassination looked into her claims?
Go to Amazon.com. Enter Judith Baker in her own words. You'll get results for a digital copy of a book where Walt Brown utilizes her own words and the known evidence in the case to get at, well, a different perspective, let's say. You can get Judith Barry Baker in her own words from the author himself, signed if you request it by contacting Dr. Brown at KIASJFK@AOL.com. It's a fun book, and it actually dissects the many, many fantastic claims. Judith Barry Baker in her own words.
Thank you for all the great information.
The Ochelli.com radio network.
In Denial, Secret Wars with Airstrikes and Tanks by Larry Hancock. Secret wars became a staple of U.S. covert operations and are still happening today. Larry Hancock's book, In Denial, rips the cover off many of them. Using new files, it exposes things about the Bay of Pigs that no one has ever written about before. It shows why it really failed and why the United States did not learn from it. It also shows why other countries today are doing secret operations with more success. This is the book that puts what some want to deny into the light. In Denial, Secret Wars with Airstrikes and Tanks. Larry Hancock. For more information, go to larry-hancock.com. Pick up your copy of In Denial at Amazon.com in digital or physical form.
Ochelli.com.
The War State by Michael Swanson explains the great national transformation that took place and put the Kennedy presidency in the context of the times and reveals never before published information about the Cuban Missile Crisis. President Kennedy would not have been assassinated if he had been president 200 years ago. His assassination took place in the context of the Cold War and the rise of the national security state. Before World War II, the United States was a continental republic. In the decade that followed, it became an imperial superpower. Generals such as Curtis LeMay not only wanted to invade Cuba, but knew that there were short-range missiles on the island armed with nuclear warheads that they could not destroy because they were on mobile launchers. Their invasion could have led to a third world war, and they wanted to go to war anyway. The War State by Michael Swanson reveals why and will show you what President Kennedy was up against. For more information, thewarstate.com.
Do you like history, real history, that you were never taught in schools? Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia. By author Mike Swanson, with new documentation never seen before that'll open your eyes to events that led up to this. Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia, 1945 through 1961. Get your copy today at Amazon.com. Why? The Vietnam War by author Mike Swanson.
Going to Chuck Ochelli.
When you hear Chuck Ochelli, you know it's Chuck Ochelli.
You are about to embark upon the great crusade. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes